Hello, fiends, and welcome to another Halloween edition of Figure Study. This year I wanted to go with a figure that was a bit more thematically appropriate, and, well, let's just say I didn't feel like doing a hour-and-a-half long recording session of just the Terror Cons. I will get to Orden someday, though, I promise. But in the meantime, I figure, second best thing, horror cons. So we're taking a look at Transformers Earthrise Snapdragon, the other half of the horror con duo. And this guy is very cool. He's definitely got some weird little issues, but it's funny, I have no love for Snapdragon, really. I never owned the original figure, but a friend of mine did, and I remember messing around with it a lot, even though typically it didn't have the headmaster, so I just transformed the headless body back and forth. Never saw Snapdragon in the cartoon at all, never had the original toy for myself, but for some reason I've always been incredibly drawn to it. I wanted to get the G1 toy a while back, but I didn't want to spend like $100+ on it. I was tempted to get the KFC version that did look pretty cool, but again, it's like $150, and there were some issues with it, and primarily like the weird ratcheting on the hips. Then we get Siege Apeface, and I'm like, okay, they have to be doing a Snapdragon. I'm just gonna wait for an official Hasbro, like an updated official Hasbro Takara Snapdragon, and we got that, and this makes me happy. I really like this. There's something about this weirdly conical spaceship mode that turns into a dragon dinosaur thing that also turns into a weird cone-headed robot. It appeals to me on a very base level that I can't quite understand. But we do finally have a Snapdragon, and this makes me happy. Now, unlike Apeface, he does have a much brighter color plastic to him. He doesn't have that detail-absorbing, soapy, 3D printed feeling plastic. I still say that with Apeface, because of the way it was designed, it's probably got something to do with the materials being much more durable than standard plastic, because it just has a feel to it. So, I do understand why Apeface was like that, but I do feel like Snapdragon benefits from not requiring those types of materials, because now you get a much brighter plastic. It still kind of looks like an off-white, like a slightly grayish plastic here, but it's so much better than Apeface's plastic in like base color form, which we will see when we do comparisons. It's also rocking some purple and turquoise colors that I absolutely love, and I think they work really well with this ever so slightly dark white here, very bright gray. I don't know what I'm going to call this. Essentially, the purple and the turquoise work really well with the kind of base color here. The shape of the ship does appear to be kind of the classic Snapdragon look. It's got that kind of, again, that long kind of conical nose, and then the little turbines on the sides, these little fins on the back. It's a little bit gappy right back here, but I'm okay with it, and I feel like this, again, when we do the comparisons, you'll see what I'm talking about, but I feel like this handles the jet mode way better than Apeface does. Not that Apeface had a lot to work with. I like how these tail fins are kind of like a turquoisey color instead of like the standard white that the wings are. They're bent in a little bit, which I also think is cool. It just kind of works aesthetically for a kind of sci-fi looking ship, though because of the packaging, they don't quite sit right. Like either this one's pushed in too far or this one's pushed out too far. They're just a little off center. But the look of the ship is very nice. The detailing is also, as you'd expect with Siege and Earthrise, there's just tons and tons of molded detail throughout the whole thing. Lots of little crevices. And along the underside, you've got a little bit of obvious robot down here, but it covers it up relatively well. Now, as for the cockpit section, I'm kind of more of a fan of the original G1 toys look, which I believe these were more of like a coppery gold color rather than translucent yellow plastic. Because this is made out of translucent plastic, that means this entire section here is that translucent plastic, and it didn't really need to be. I feel like they could have had this as like the same color plastic as this, and then just like painted these, but then maybe that would have meant more paint apps. I don't know. As I'm thinking about it, maybe it's because they didn't want to just do the translucent yellow for just this section, so they needed some extra parts to kind of go in there, and so maybe that's why these are yellow. I still would have preferred if these were white and just painted, but whatever. But anyway, the cockpit section, because of the transformation, it does not open the way the G1 toy did, which was just like a single hinge out. Instead, it opens in a kind of French door kind of manner where it splits down the middle, which is fine. I'm just not the biggest fan of this in general. But inside we've got his Titan Master, Earthrise Master, I don't know what these are called. It is cool though that on the inside they actually tampographed or painted the controls on the console. It's only ever visible in this mode, so it's kind of like a big detail for not a lot of payoff, but I can appreciate that they did it. Let's put this over here for now so we can take a look at his little Titan Master-ish dude. And he's fine. His little flaps on the biceps are a little bit intrusive, but I don't know, it's okay. He's also got a tiny little, almost looks like a mini Snapdragon head. Really not much else going on paint-wise for like this part of it. The rest of it's just along the back there. But I can appreciate the changes here. It's interesting what they did with this, which we'll see when we go into the Dino Monster mode, whatever, where the way he's designed is you put the arms up and these flaps become the eyes. So that's kind of neat. I appreciate the fact that this becomes like a lower jaw. I do understand why they did things a little bit differently, because this gives them a little more control over the look and proportions of the dino head, because if this guy just folded up into a dinosaur head like the original toy did, this would be a very tiny dino head. But he still does have the molding on the sides here for the dino eyes. Actually, now that I'm messing with this is kind of loose. That's weird. Maybe that's why I have so many problems plugging him in dino mode. Hang on a sec. Let's try to tighten this screw up. See if that affects anything. Well, it definitely makes the ball joint on the neck a lot tighter. And this is not wiggling around anymore. So hopefully that'll make plugging this guy into the dino mode a little easier. But anyway, it's fine. It's typical Titan Master nonsense where you don't really get a lot of paint, but at least there's a little more color separation on this guy than some of the stuff we've gotten in the past. Anyway, let's put him over there with his little jet thingy and move on to size comparisons. Here he's with an ever so slightly more seasonally themed Standard Deluxe squad. And, he's a Voyager class figure, so he is bigger than a Deluxe. He's actually, the vehicle mode spreads out a fair bit, which I can appreciate. Here he is with his HorrorCon buddy Apeface and his little Titan Master person. You can see those two together. And they do look good together. This guy, I don't know, like the black jumpsuit in the middle and then the red limbs just kind of aren't that great looking. I feel like of the two, this one's the better looking of them, even without the panel lining that I added previously. I don't know. I feel like Apeface's little Titan Master guy wears his colors a little better. But yeah, looking at the vehicle mode side by side, even with the panel lining that I did to Apeface, Snapdragon just objectively looks so much better. It's kind of hard not to look better than a block of soap with some wings and a fuselage slapped onto it, but still, way better. And in the interest of spookiness, here's Snapdragon with the Dark Tank. Alright, time to turn Snapdragon into the dragon part of that name. So, we'll just leave this little guy like that for now, and let's do the thing. And here we have Snapdragon in his whatever the heck this is mode, and this is absolutely ridiculous and really silly looking, but that's why it's so amazing. I adore the idea of this kind of relatively cool looking sci-fi spaceship just kind of weirdly collapsing and unfolding to make this absolutely ridiculous looking dinosaur thing. I appreciate how so much of the bits kind of pop off and shift around, like how this bit shifts down to kind of slim up the upper body of the whatever this is mode, and kind of free up the arms a little bit too. And of course the wings fold around and you get these legs, which can actually work in like a backwards knee fashion if you wanted to do it that way. Though I think they're supposed to go like this. And yeah, this is absolutely ridiculous, but I love it. Even being able to plug the guns onto the back here as like kaiju mounted artillery cannons, I don't know. It's just fun. This is a fun, silly mode. The main gripe that I really have with this is, well, okay. Color-wise, it's fine. It holds a lot of the same colors as the vehicle mode, but the downside to that is, if you look at them from the back, there's a lot of black plastic back here. And it doesn't bother me so much up here, but like the back of the tail here, I feel like this could have really benefited from something. Like just a little bit of something along here. Like there's this detail along here, like maybe if that was painted in purple to match this, then that detail going down the tail would just kind of make this spine detail feel like it continued. This spine detail feel like it continues all the way down. Just spitballing. I just kind of wish there was a little something more in the back of the tail here. Granted, you're not going to be looking at them from that angle very much, but it gives this kind of weird feeling of like there's this soft, squishy, unarmored bits, which are like the black bits here, and then he's just got these armor plates along the front, which is not particularly good defense. The other thing that kind of bums me about this mode is the head. I do think it's clever how it's done, and I actually, now that I've tightened up that screw in the Titan Master or whatever, plugging him in, so much easier, because when I first got this guy, plugging him in, I hated plugging the guy into the Dino head, Beast Mode head, whatever, because the ball socket Titan Master neck would like flop around all over the place, and it was just hugely frustrating, but tightening up that screw, huge difference. But the thing that disappoints me about this is, one, the fact that he can't turn his head in this mode at all. I feel like if they had worked a swivel joint in here, it would be amazing. I would love that. And two, the eyes look really small. I mean, I know they're not supposed to be huge, but they do look really small. And also the color's wrong. Like the G1 toy is supposed to be more of like a yellowish color, but I could paint that myself if I really wanted. It's just a little disappointing that the eyes are small, and more than the eyes, it's the fact that you can't turn the head. But I do think it's clever how they incorporated the legs as the lower jaw. It's kind of a pretty natural jawline. Like, it juts forward a little bit, but he's also a giant dinosaur monster, so I feel like that's fine. He's even got a tiny Decepticon logo on his tiny dino chest. Beast chest, whatever. But anyway, yeah, this guy is cool. The color mixture is great, too, because, again, I like the lighter, like the almost white, the very light gray, whatever this is. I still haven't decided what to call this, but I like this lighter color with the purple and turquoise accents, but now you get more of those purple accents and even some red accents in there. It's most of the colors that you're going to get with his robot mode as well, but I kind of like how the jet mode or spaceship mode, whatever, is kind of got a slightly different mixture of colors going on. Like, you don't really get much of the black, you don't really get much in the way of red, and not really much purple. But yeah, I like how the colors kind of change up between the modes. A couple of nitpicks here and there, but overall, very cool. And it's, yeah, maybe not as good looking as, say, the $150-ish KFC Masterpiece style figure, but you know, that's $150-ish, and this is $30, and I'm very content with this for $30. Anyway, putting him next to this slightly Halloween-styled standard-ish deluxe squad, you can see that in this mode, he's actually about as tall as a deluxe, which is pretty cool. Yeah, there's like a freaking gigantic tail hanging off of his back, but I don't know, I like the fact that his vehicle is much bigger than a deluxe, his beast mode is roughly as tall as a deluxe, and his robot mode is going to, I mean, spoilers, but it's going to be taller than a deluxe. I like the difference in sizes, I don't know, it's amusing to me. Here he is with his horror con buddy, Transformers Siege Apeface, and these two, they look really good together. I mean, Apeface, as I've said many, many times before, I'm not super into the kind of soapy plastic that he's got. I just don't care for it much, but with the panel lining at least, it no longer eats details like it did before, so that's cool, and just having these two together is very neat. It would have been nice if the colors were a little bit closer, but as I said, I do understand why they did what they did with Apeface. And yeah, I don't really know how many other ways I could say it. I just really like the way these two look together.
Hey Rob, can we get your help in here for a second?
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, here is Snapdragon, and then just a little bit more. Here is Snapdragon with, once again, the more thematically appropriate dark tank. And that is it for those size comparisons, so let us turn Snapdragon into his final regular humanoid robot mode. And here we have Snapdragon in his humanoid robot mode. And this also looks very cool. He definitely handles his kibble much differently than the G1 toy, and by extension different than the KFC version. The G1 toy basically had the entire fuselage of the plane just on the back. Not a great look, but this does capture a lot of those same points, like the jet turbines and wings for the arms, the relatively normal-ish looking legs, though I'll talk about that in a minute, and then of course that very, very recognizable torso. That's that chunk of black with the two little holes there, mirrored Decepticon logos, and this purple strip going down the middle, and also the head, which we'll look at more in a bit. The turquoise is still there, but it's kind of hidden in most cases, so it kind of comes back to what I was saying about the differences in the color schemes between the three different modes, how the jet is primarily purple and this light, very light gray. The beast mode is kind of a mixture of everything with the whatever this is color, the purple, the turquoise, the black, and the robot mode mostly ditches the turquoise, so you get mostly black, then some purple, then this. And even that red color, like there was some of that red in the Dino mode, you really only get it on the back of the robot mode head now, because the eyes, which we'll see closer in a bit, are not the same shade as this red. It's an interesting way that they kind of mix up the colors between all the different modes. Now, detail-wise, the robot mode is, it's slightly disappointing, honestly. I do really like how the robot looks, and I think it's a neat toy overall. The transformation's fun, the posability is actually pretty good. The thing that bums me out about this guy is the legs. There's a decent amount of color breakup going along with the arms here, and how you've got these purple chunks and little black bits in the elbows. The molded fists are a little egregious, but, you know, it's fine. I mean, I do definitely wish that maybe stuff in the bottoms of the feet were painted in a little bit to kind of mix things up a little bit more, but I can at least appreciate how that purple breaks up the whitish, grayish, whatever. And of course the torso, it's like this mixture of purple and black pretty much all the way through, and then you get little hints of turquoise around the sides there, but only along the sides. It's just the legs. This whole thing is just like a big slab of nothing. There is detail there that's molded and it looks good, but it's unpainted, so it's much less interesting to look at. And here's kind of where I also feel like if this detail that was on the back of the tail section, if that was painted, I feel like that would also benefit this mode, because you'd get just a little bit of a hint of like purple or whatever on the insides of the legs. And I just wish he had a little bit more going on here, just in terms of like the knee and shin detailing. Budgetarily, I'm sure there are reasons why they didn't, but I just would have liked it more, because these are big blank slabs with actual color kind of slapped onto the sides. It's fine. I really do like this guy. I like him better than Ape Face, and I thought Ape Face was pretty darn cool. It's also surprisingly clean. He does have some kibble, but it's pretty much just wing flaps hanging off of his back. Like this bit, yeah, you could maybe call this kibble, but like it's pretty much just his back. It's a little big and a little broad, kind of doesn't quite match up with his torso, but it still works. You could argue that this is kibble, but it kind of reads like bell bottoms when you're looking at it from the side, like silhouette-wise, so it doesn't really bother me at all. So yeah, I dig this guy's robot mode. I like the overall design. I mean, I liked the original design, so of course I'm going to like this because it's a slightly updated version. The head is what I kind of was coming to expect from a Snapdragon head, which is this slightly smushed-in cone head shape with the faceplate and the kind of goggles, glasses, whatever you want to call them. And here you can see a little bit better how that red for the eyes is not the same red for the back there. And the purple faceplate is fine. My issue with this is pretty much the same issue that I have with Spinister, or not Spinister, it was Rotor Storm, because Spinister actually did it better. The idea that it's all colors that we've seen before aside from the eyes, and the eyes are so close to what we've already seen that I just wish that there were just something different going on with the head, like if the faceplate was a different color or if the eyes were a different color or something. In the grand scheme of things, like when you're looking at him as just the robot, the red up here and here is not seen anywhere else in this mode, so it does work in that regard, but I feel like something a little bit more extreme would have been nice, but that may not have been G1 accurate, so anyway, let's move Snapdragon back and finish this video off with one more round of size comparisons. What do you say? Here he is with the spooky flavored standard deluxe squad, and he's a Voyager, so he stands about as tall as a modern Voyager when compared to a deluxe. As I said with the Dino mode, or Beast mode, whatever, I really like how the sizes feel significantly different between the three modes as well. Spaceship mode, definitely bigger than a deluxe. Beast mode, bulkier, but about as tall as a deluxe, and then this guy, both bulkier and taller. It's neat. I don't know. I like it. Here he is with his HorrorCon buddy. Let me move these two a little bit closer. And yeah, there's the duo. I really like that. I know we all hate the Siege gunk. I know that. I hate it too, believe me. But I can't deny that even though the Siege gunk is annoying, it does add more to the color and texture of Apeface's legs and shoulders and biceps. I feel like if Snapdragon had something similar going on down here, it may not look great, but it would make those legs much more interesting. He just really needs a little bit more color in those legs. But regardless of that, they do look great as a pair. And I am really glad that we managed to get the two HorrorCon figures and a couple of more updated toy lines. And lastly, we'll round off the spooks with the Dark Tank. And that is it for Transformers Earthrise Voyager class Snapdragon. This guy is pretty much exactly what I wanted. I mean, he does have nitpicks, which I did make a lot, and I'm not going to keep repeating myself over and over again with all that stuff, but even with those nitpicks, I'm just so glad to have an updated Snapdragon figure. I'm glad to have a Snapdragon figure, which I know is weird because I don't have any real attachment to the figure, but it's just something about that design that always appealed to me. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I really, really, really wanted to get one and just didn't want to pay $100+ for it, so having a $30 option, that's good for me. But that is enough about what I think. What do you all think of Earthrise Snapdragon and the fact that we got official new HorrorCons in general? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. And remember, art is more than meets the eye. And also spooky, because it's October. Ooh.